Sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. If all the things you never show, there are the things I want you to know. Secrets start in your heart to say. But if you don't want to tell me now, I guess I'll never know.
Good morning, you guys. Good morning. It's like, I know it's really early here for a Saturday. It's like, what? Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. But I'm still sitting here going, I know that there's a press conference because there was an update on the Facebook in like 17 minutes ago on the Lewiston. And I'm like, why is nobody showing that they're live for this press conference yet? Morning, Jen. Probably my husband's not too happy I'm up this early on there. But anyways, can you guys hear me okay, by the way? So anyways, yeah, I mean, I know the press conference is going to start, but I'm like, why am I not finding anyone, like even Maine, right? These guys, I'm not even seeing them live yet. I'm not sure if they're just waiting for the last second or not. So I'm just kind of, it's, yeah. Good morning. Hui. Okay. I know it's like 10 o'clock. It seems always strange to me because it's always a 3-hour difference usually. And it's 10 o'clock there and people have been up for a while. Good morning, Outback. How are you? So yeah, so we're just really waiting for the press conference to start. Is that what came out? Was there an ad about assault rifles? Well, you know how the you know how the algorithm in that works, right? Of course, ads, the way that AI tracks you and everything now. So did you have an ad really about assault rifles? But anyways, well, you know what? Again, I'm just going to say big sense of relief, you know, that for the community and the surrounding areas around there that Robert Card was found, took his own life. Kind of glad that they definitely found him, but I'm also kind of happy that he, you know, took his own life as well. You know, one would say an eye for an eye, but in this case, there's like 18 lives plus all the injured, plus all the people he impacted. Sandy Hook tragedy. Oh, whenever I think of Sandy Hook tragedy, I can't help but think of JLR, to be honest, because I remember him telling, well, other people told it as well, but when he was, I think, I remember he was pretending to be the nephew of the Sandy Hook killer, and he actually told the story, and it was crazy. It was just one of those absurd things. So now whenever I think of Sandy Hook, I think of JLR. Yeah, to all the people. Absolutely. So let me just quickly hit some, let's see what some refreshes got. It's got to be going on. Like, how is it that these guys aren't live? Like, I'm just going to refresh for a second here. Live now. If somebody else sees a link to a live for the press conference, let me know. Besides Fox 59. Fox 59 will always strike you at some point. Yeah. Like, Jen or Outback or Cha-Cha, do you guys like see, like, did they, let me just see here. This is so strange to me. Like, it literally says 27 minutes ago that there will be a news conference this morning at 10 a.m. And it's 4 minutes to 10 a.m. Yeah, thank you. Because I'm just confused because this is the main. Like, this is the main one that covers this story. Yeah, I appreciate that because I'm confused right now. That's why sometimes I always panic with stuff like this because I'm like, why am I not seeing anything? Okay, let's see about this one. Oh, okay, you guys, don't worry. I found it. Okay. I was curious because Fox Live. Okay, I got it. Thank you guys. So let me just stop this screen for a minute and then go over to here. Whew, okay. I had it on them wondering because they were on Israeli stuff or something like that. So let me just, oops, their sound's not on. Let me get this one back in.
Almost there, guys. Thank you.
There we go. We're good. Phew. Thank you guys, though. Because I was like, I don't understand why live Maine, but it's okay because their quality yesterday was sucky. Good morning, Jess. You know, um, I told my husband he wasn't too happy with me for being live this early because my computer is in the bedroom. Because my brother-in-law, when he moved here, he has my computer area, so it's his day to sleep in. But I was like, this is important to me. Please don't be upset. So I made him swear to me this morning that he's not going to be upset. Okay, Cha-Cha. Good morning, Jess. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Jen. Absolutely. I told him it's important. Honey, did I tell you it's important? Yes.
All right, if you are just joining us, I'm Giacomo Luca. Thanks so much. The time now 9:58 here on the East Coast, taking a live look out in Lewiston, Maine, as the city of Lewiston embarks on a healing process and a search for answers a day after the body was found of a U.S.
Morning,
Army
Sharon.
reservist who authorities said opened fire at a bowling alley and a bar, killing 18 people. Robert Carr died of an apparent gunshot wound, self-inflicted, according to authorities who are preparing to provide a 10 a.m. update in just 1 minute now. We are sitting here on that shot there again out of Lewiston, Maine. Again, I'm Giacomo Luca here for you on Live Now from Fox. We're going to go ahead and pull that shot full for you. And we are waiting for the latest update from authorities into this massacre in Maine. leading to the deaths of
Just one
18
sec, guys.
people, 13 others injured.
News Nation did a clip yesterday with a gentleman from Maine, like that area in Lewiston, and he was saying that, well, at least he was telling Ashley Banfield that. So where the bench or where the boat launch is, that like there's a trail, like a walking trail that's lit up. Oh, here's our expressive interpreter. That there's this walking trail, and it would probably take about 10-15 minutes, basically, to walk down this trail from the boat launch up to the recycling plant. So there's this walking trail, and then it stops, and then another couple football fields, he said, is about two, no, maybe it was less than that. I think he said two baseball fields. Oh, sorry, I just seen a Facebook message come in. But so anyways, that's what this person was saying, about kind of like that's probably the path that he took. Yeah, Jess. That's what somebody said yesterday.
All right, if you are just tuning in
Not sure if it was you
here
or
to
but it was
Live Now
somebody
from Fox,
yesterday.
I'm Giacomo Luca. We appreciate everyone joining us. You are taking a live look out at this shot from Lewiston, Maine, where 13 people were injured, 18 people killed when 40-year-old Robert Card of Bowdoin, a firearms instructor who grew up in the area, was found dead in a nearby Lisbon from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. That's the suspect in this case.
Hey,
Maine
Ray.
Governor Janet
Hey,
Mills at a Friday night news conference called for the healing process to begin. Like other local businesses,
I'm so relieved
have been
for
a number
everyone.
closed for days as police search for that man who is suspected of fatally shooting 18 people at a bar and a bowling alley in Maine's second largest city. The dead include one of their regular customers.
Who was it? Someone was just asking where you were
according to
yesterday.
witnesses there on the scene. We are
I said you gone
awaiting
fishing.
a press conference now from officials there in Maine any minute now. The time now 10:02 on the East Coast. This expected to start just 2 minutes ago. So let's pop up the audio and listen in.
Yeah. Anyways, that's nice that they did that. Jess used one of the victim's friends for interpreting. I know she's expressive, and it's hard not to pay attention to her. But she looks. But to me, I also see those deep emotions of caring people. I was trying to practice that in front of the mirror too. I'm wondering if I would make expressions. But then when we watch some other people, they do the same thing. Really, it's just that it's because I think it's because it's so close to the podium. And all you see is like hands moving around and stuff like that. And it's hard not to pay attention to them instead of listening to the person that's actually talking. Who just is expressive with her tongue. I used to know a little bit of sign language when I was younger. Not a lot. But we had a deaf friend. When I was a kid, there was this girl that she could talk a little bit, but we tried to use the sign language to communicate with her. reading some of the specifics, I'm going to need laws to change from what we can recommend legally when someone is not mentally well and has by right. Absolutely, absolutely on that. No. You talking about the shooter? Is that what you're talking about, Ray? Yeah, Bowden. At first, when I seen it, I was like, looks like it's Bowdoin. I think it was like Bowdoin. Because I was like, is it Bowden? Because that was my first thought. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Good morning, CJK. I'd like some breakfast. I'd like some breakfast. You're making me shit. Shouldn't be using those little emojis. You're making me hungry. If you're cooking. Yeah. Nice. Wakey, wakey, shake and bakey. I could use, my husband. Um, it's so funny actually because they make fun of us Canadians.
All right, if you are just tuning in here to
using
Live Now from
cinnamon a
Fox,
lot.
I'm Giacomo Luca taking a live look over in Lewiston, Maine, as we are preparing to hear from officials in the wake of that massacre there. We do see folks taking the stage now up there on the dais. Let's listen in as we are again preparing for those officials there to give us the latest on that massacre that led to the deaths of 18 people, 13 others injured. Now a suspect is believed to have been found dead with a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Yeah. One sec, guys.
All right, as we prepare for this, let's go out to a quick commercial break. On the other side, we'll have the very latest updates as we are preparing for officials there in Lewiston, Maine, to give us the very latest updates and answer reporters' questions and questions from the community, as so many are wondering what the motive for this was. We just got the 5-minute
Maybe
mark.
earlier.
So go ahead and take that.
The spokesperson
quick commercial
today,
break,
the
and
commissioner.
when we come back on the other
I
side,
think by
getting
now
prepared.
you all know how to pronounce his name. And
Stick with us. This is Live Now from Fox.
I'm just going to put them on mute for a second. Don't need to listen to that noise. Get them when you can listen to this voice instead. Okay, yeah, so let's get back to the cinnamon stuff. So my husband, because like I said, being from the UK, and then his brother came over too and goes, you guys like use cinnamon on everything. Like, cinnamon's good. I love cinnamon toast. You guys ever have cinnamon toast, right? Mix cinnamon with some sugar. Ding. Not like I can do that anymore. Diabetes. Meh. But anyway, but yeah, sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on your whatever. A lot of things. Cinnamon makes it absolutely better. Yes, I did. I slept from 2 o'clock. I slept about 5 hours. Not even, but close. Cinnamon, yeah. Deer hunting open today, yeah. Right. So, are you like close? Like, how far are you from that area approximately, Jess, from Lewiston? It is very sad. Um, and you can see how the Lewiston, when they're talking, it's like, look, our place is not like this, okay? It's like really cute, and I'm sure it is, right? Like, this is something that is one of those probably once in a lifetime things that just happen to impact, the poor city or, town, like, well, city, I guess, because it's like about 40,000, they said in Lewiston. No rest for the wicked. Hey, Jeff, good morning. Cinnamon honey bun is amazing. Does it now? I was just looking at my cinnamon the other day. Oh, you know what? That's what I'm going to make this morning. I'm going to make French toast. You know what? I always forget to make. I always forget about French toast. I don't know why. Like, I think it's because, like, when I was younger, oh, they're just showing yesterday's. When I was younger, usually I didn't like French toast when I was younger for whatever reason. And I think I would rather have pancakes than French toast. And then I started to like it as I got older. And I keep totally forgetting to make it. Like, I was just thinking about that a couple of weeks ago. Good morning. Good morning, SP. How are you? We have less in the state. Yeah. Which is a good thing. It's really just tragic that this stuff happens. It's just, I can't even, like, I understand it. I can't comprehend it. We're just going to wait. We're just going to talk and wait. But, I'm just grateful that he was found dead. The community can move on and try to heal, which is going to take, it's a forever, staple, and sadly in that community. I just feel horrible, for the families that had gotten the news that their loved one, they go to like, knowing things that you're going to go to the bowling alley, you're going to go to play billiards. Oh, it looks like it's soon. Is that them getting started now?
All right, good morning. My name is Mike Sawchuk. I am the Commissioner for the Department of Public Safety here in the lovely state of Maine. Thank you very much for joining us. As I stated yesterday in the afternoon conversation, for the consideration of the 4 death victims and their family, we are requesting that the ASL interpreter is in all frames for language access here in Maine and the U.S. They are grieving and have a right to know the latest information in ASL. Thank you for that. All right. We do appreciate your patience and your professionalism. I know you've been with us now for a few days away from your families, tucked in here with Lewiston, working with us. So we're going to go ahead and kind of focus again on the operational side of the house. It's intended that I'm your only speaker for this morning. I suppose if we do get some Q&A that somebody else I think can answer readily, we'll do that. And we'll do the best we can for you and for the state of Maine and the community here. So I do want to start right at 7:45 last night when Mr. Card was located deceased from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And that did occur at the Maine Recycling Corporation, and that's at 61 Capitol Ave in Lisbon. And we're going to try to put that right up here on the screen. The audio visual is a little better than the chalkboard we had on day one. So this should show a map, a Google map location of where the Maine Recycling Corporation is located at. And I wanted to show this. This is the primary reason that we're late, because we were trying to get this switched over from Google Maps to something that you could utilize. So when you look at this, there's a triangle here. That stop right there. Yeah, exactly. That triangle is, in fact, the Maine Recycling Corporation. And if we go down across Capitol Avenue to where that circle is, that's the overflow parking location.
He's showing this.
He was found deceased
Just
in
to
a
show
trailer.
you.
So, and I think that's important because we were asked some good questions last night that we did not have the answers to at that point. So that particular location was cleared twice previously, and it was cleared in that triangle. It was cleared where the business is located, and that was cleared by Chief McGee and the Lisbon Police Department and individuals there earlier, and a joint or a combination tactical team later in the afternoon. The owner of that facility did a great job because he was like, this individual knows the property. He could be tucked in the back of one of these trailers because they're full of recycled metal and all this stuff. You could crawl over the top. Well, we cleared the trailers. We cleared trailers that are there on that business footprint. Nobody had any idea that across the street, across Capitol Avenue, there's an overflow parking lot, which is the Recycling Corporation property. So the owner was very diligent to say, well, did you clear those trailers? Well, what trailers are you talking about? So then the follow-up is with the tactical team commanders to say, okay, tell me exactly where you were at. And then they were doing the same thing. We were looking at our timeline. We cleaned trailers. We didn't clear those. Let's go back. So the Maine State Police tactical team ultimately were the ones that located the body within one of those trailers. And this is a tractor trailer style. You picture that 18-wheeler. This is what a trailer would look like. A box trailer is where he was located, right in the back of that. Some of those trailers are locked. Some of those trailers aren't. So he was found inside one of those boxes that was unlocked from the outside. And that you can probably picture that from just your experience on the street, right? You've seen those kind of things before. So that's where we found the body last night. A little bit of updates in that regard. We're going to be there probably through the end of the day, making sure that we process that particular scene. And we'll also be at the bar and grill and the bowling alley probably through the rest of the weekend. We're currently working that now, and we will definitely be working that tomorrow. And at this point, that is heavily resourced by evidence response team members. So ETs are processing physical evidence at those locations. Again, as we've discussed, there's a reason for that. That's a lot of material still there to work with. So we expect that we'll work through the weekend there. I would also just tell you that the behind the scenes stuff is a very intensive manhunt, an incredible amount of resources invested. Once he's located last night, truth be told, we got some people some rest. Hopefully you got some sleep last night. So we sent some people home. They're back in this morning, all in for today. We're going to send them back to get some rest tomorrow. They can see their families and be back in on Monday, the entire team, to include our partners, which I am going to take more time today to make sure that I acknowledge everybody that I can. So they'll be back in on Monday to continue their work, whether it's scene cleanup, continuing to do interviews. Overall, we received 821-ish as of a little while ago, tips and leads. So we continue to work those. The digital tip line, that video tip line that you were so helpful in putting the information out on. Ultimately, we're at 197 of those leads, and that's information that was uploaded to that system. Got about a dozen or so search warrants that are completed, so signed and impounded. Impounded meaning that you wouldn't have access to them at this point. But given the circumstances here, right, because we don't envision a trial of any sort for anybody that's involved here, the release of information I would expect after those affidavits, that impound is pulled, there's going to be a lot of information that's going to be there for you down the road. Again, we'll try to do the best we can today now that that piece of this event is done and he's been found. We're certainly able to answer additional questions. Everything we say can be interpreted by a suspect. They just said this about me, I'm going to go do that. And again, based on the violent nature of what occurred here, the traumatic incidents that occurred here in Lewiston, we were certainly concerned right into the last second that we didn't know what this individual was going to do next or where he was going to do it. So we need to be very cautious about that. We also need to be very cautious when you talk about trials, one information. So Mike's at the podium and he said this, and then at trial 2 years later, they say, well, didn't you say this? And now you think this because you found it in a cell phone. All those things, we need to make sure that we're not being prejudicial for trials and for the court process. So again, from our end, about a dozen or so of those warrants, and everybody will continue to work on that. I think there's some additional information that I mentioned I was going to speak to you about today, and that is the addition of a family assistance center. And that family assistance center is going to be located at the Lewiston Armory at 65 Central Ave, right here in Lewiston. So 65 Central Ave. And that's intended to be a one-stop shop kind of thing, one central space for victims and their support persons to gather so that they don't have to make multiple stops for multiple different agencies to seek assistance. Now, this particular location is open for individuals who were present at the shooting site. So whether you were victim, physically stating that you were injured during this event, or you were there and traumatized, in either one of those situations, the Family Assistance Center will be a good spot for those individuals to go. I will say that this is probably, again, common sense, but the media will not be allowed to enter the Family Assistance Center. We want these folks focused on healing, not on, hey, am I in camera? What are people going to think? I don't want anybody to know I was there. So if you could do me a favor and help me out with that, that would be greatly appreciated. Now, that's the Maine State Police are working with the Maine Attorney General's Office, the Red Cross, and the FBI Victim Services Division, who have been incredible. And they're opening that space. That space actually opened this morning at 10, and they're going to be operational for the foreseeable future from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Lewiston Armory at 65 Central Ave. A separate location or a separate site providing mental health assistance, and that's going to be located at the Ramada Inn here in Lewiston, and that's created for the larger community. So again, as we've discussed, you have the scene, but the entire city is a scene, right? People that are traumatized, that I know somebody that knows somebody that knows something, or I walk by that, I've been to that bar before, I bowl there, that wasn't my night. But you want to talk to somebody about that.
Glad you're doing
That's
okay.
going to be at the Ramada Inn. So you're not necessarily a victim, a specific victim of what occurred, or somebody that was present when this occurred. And I mentioned that, and I mentioned that in this setting because as these things evolve, we have an investigation. And now this will slowly evolve over to a wellness and a resiliency conversation for the community and for the victims and others. And that's the information that we want to make sure that folks are getting so that they can receive the help that they need. I would also say that once we clear these scenes, and I want to make sure I acknowledge this individual, Mike Halloran, who's a retired law enforcement officer out of Mass, owns a trauma service cleanup company. And Mike gives us a shout and says, you know, when you clear those scenes, I'm willing to come up and donate the services of my company to clean all of these crime scenes, which, as you can imagine, or probably can't imagine, is an incredibly traumatic process to begin with. So we clear the scenes. We have all the evidence that we need. This company is going to come up, the Trauma Service Cleanup Company, with Mike Halloran. They'll do the cleanups, and then we'll release those locations back to the owners so that they're not forced to deal with that first thing when they walk back into something, their hopes and dreams. I always wanted to open a bar, and they're going to be surrounded by the chaos that would have occurred that evening. So that will be the next steps there. So that's probably early next week. I gave you a little bit of information reference to the detectives, the major crime units, and all of our federal partners that are working with us there. We will be transitioning from our current command post back to the Lewiston Police Department. As you might imagine, the parking lot was a little bit different today than it was yesterday, right? So our command post, the next big step for the incident management team is to kind of demobilize. I think when these things happen, the first piece is we don't have enough people to do the work we need to do. And then the second piece is we have so many people to do the work that we can do. How can we track them? How can we feed them? Where are they at, and are they safe? So we're going to be fully invested in the demobilization of that location and the personnel that are involved throughout today and into tomorrow. So I do want to touch on a couple other questions that have been asked along the way. And with clearance from our prosecutors and our detectives, we're certainly more comfortable answering now based on the current outcome of what happened last night. So one thing, there's been a number of completely legitimate questions about a note that was found in his residence. So this is a paper style note. I'm not going to read it to you verbatim, but what it is it's a note to a loved one, and is saying that this is the passcode for my phone. This is the bank account numbers. And I wouldn't describe it as a explicit suicide note, but the tone and tenor was that the individual was not going to be around and wanted to make sure that this loved one had access to his phone and whatever was in his phone. We're working on that now to get into the phone. That's one of those search warrants. That's one of those very specialized skill set that our folks have. And then the bank codes to make sure that that happens. That's not uncommon in suicide situations. You get long notes, you get very set up scenarios, but that's something that you asked about. And I do appreciate that. And again, we can talk about that a little bit more now. There was a firearm found in the white Subaru station wagon. That was a long gun style. I don't not have the make and model. You could ask me, is that an AR-15 or is that a this? I don't know that. But I was asked yesterday specifically, did they find a gun? Did we find a gun in the car? And we did. And that was a long gun. And to my understanding, that was the only firearm that was found inside the car at that time. I would expect, again, based on the investigation and the outcome, that when these impounded affidavits are released, there'll be search warrant lists, and they'll have all kinds of stuff. What did we find, and how many of this and how many of that? So that'll be much more detailed. So did you find guns in the house? Did you find guns on him? So that is something that we've been asked about, and I wanted to make sure that we covered that as well. Another question that I've had some conversations around this morning. You know, if you talk about, is there a motive here, right? I think clearly there's a mental health component to this. We still need to do some research around trying to get access to certain records and things of that nature. Which again, you could probably imagine is not just as simple as just calling somebody, hey, can you send me this thing? But what I would say is that based on what I've heard through conversations this morning, I don't see, or I'm told that we don't have access to any forcibly committed for treatment information reference to Mr. Card, okay? So you can volunteer, as an example, to go to a facility and seek treatment for months on end. But if you're not forcibly committed to seek that treatment, and it's very specific to treatment, right? Not forcibly taken for an evaluation is completely different than treatment. So there are a lot of very specific criteria around firearms, and are you a possessed person or prohibited person rather, and what that looks like. So in this scenario, we have not seen to this point, I have not seen to this point, that Mr. Card was forcibly committed for treatment. And if that didn't happen, then the NICS check, you could go into a firearms dealer who does all of their work, and the background check is not going to ping that this individual is prohibited. And something that's incredibly important for us to say and for me to say, and I find myself saying it on a regular basis, just because there's appears to be a mental health nexus to this scenario, the vast majority of people, with a mental health diagnosis will never hurt anybody. They won't hurt themselves. They're not a danger to the community. Based on percentages alone, there's a bunch of folks in here that have a mental health diagnosis. I know law enforcement officers that have a mental health diagnosis. That doesn't mean they're a danger to the community. We certainly have people that reach that crisis level where that does occur, and we deal with those folks on a regular basis, sometimes through involuntary, forcible commitments, right? And sometimes not. Sometimes there's different levels of that mental health system, and that's a whole different conversation that can be quite lengthy. And I can tell you that law enforcement has been involved at this point for decades and heavily involved over the last 15 years or so. So I think that is the information that I know I wanted to come back and give you and I would also just say again that there's information that we think we can give lawfully and through our subject experts around prosecutions and all these other things. I may want to tell you something that I can't tell you. And that's just been the nature of the beast here along the way a little bit. I also want to mention this. It's a big deal. I was asked about cooperation of the family at one point. This family has been incredibly cooperative with us. Truth be told, I think the first 3 people that called us to positively identify this individual based on the photos that were released were family members. And unfortunately, what happens in a scenario like this is that this happens, they're connected to this family, and that family has taken a great deal of grief, to include threats, people hanging out at their houses, and said, do they know it's their fault? Are they enabling? All of those things. Our investigation would have been incredibly, it would have been detrimental if they didn't come forward immediately to let us know who this individual was. And how difficult a decision is that to make when you've lost this many people? It's not that difficult, but you can imagine that my family member was involved in that traumatic event. And I want to let people know. So that they should be acknowledged in that. Again, I won't specify exactly who the family members were, but as a whole, we found them to be very, very cooperative. I will also state that, from an after action perspective, you can imagine that all of the law enforcement officers, the various agencies involved, the rest of the public safety world, we will be having a number of after action reports, lessons learned. We don't want this to ever happen to anybody ever again, but we've learned a lot as a state from other communities around the country where this has happened, other communities internationally where these things have happened, and they put out best practices, and this is what's happened, and what are we going to do next? So I would expect those things to continue. None of the entities that are involved in that, certainly not the Department of Public Safety, are regulatory authorities. Like, hey, we have authority over what happened over here, and we're going to act on that. So there's a time and place for all of those things. To include that mental health system. There's a military component. There's all those different things which has their own networks to regulate and make sure that they're checking their own processes. And I think that's rightfully so. So I think what I want to make sure I do, and I want to make sure we switch that screen back over to that victim screen to make sure that we all remember why we're here and why we do the work that we do. And I also want to state that because I think when we leave here today, I'm not expecting future briefings or anything else. And I don't want to leave our partners out of this. I've discussed them every time we've talked. But if you talk about Chief McGee and the Lisbon Police Department, all the work that they've done, the strong focus on Lisbon, it kind of morphed over to Lewiston, and it kind of morphed over to Lisbon with the finding of the vehicle. But Chief McGee and his team and his community have really, really stepped up across the board. And they deserve a lot of credit as a strong partner of this entire thing. And the New Hampshire State Police, I can't tell you, I mean, that helicopter was floating over us very, very quickly. And there is New Hampshire State Police and tactical teams and detectives, command staff members. that came to us immediately, across the board. From our federal partnerships, what happens in these is that everybody's got incredibly long titles that are accurate and they mean a whole lot. But when you talk about the ATF, you talk about HSI, you talk about DEA, you talk about the FBI, you talk about, we're down to first name deals, right? So you talk about Kevin, you talk about Jim, you talk about Mike at HSI, you talk about Jody. That's who we are now, right? And it's going to be valuable in the future to have that first name basis in case something else happens, across the board. And certainly the Maine State Police as the lead major crimes and investigators on this scenario have been in the forefront of this since the very, very beginning. Whether we have our elected officials here from various communities, we have IF&W, my fellow commissioner, Judy Camuso is here. Let's not forget that hunting is open today. I want to make sure that we discuss that for sure. And I guess I would just close on that, on the acknowledgement again of Chief St. Pierre and the work that him and his team have done. They've made their community proud. They've made the state of Maine proud. And we're lucky to have them as part of the Department of Public Safety. So with that in mind, I'm going to try to do some Q&A. We'll see how this goes. I wrote myself a note. I'm supposed to repeat the question before I answer it because nobody can hear it. So right here, ma'am.
Yes. Talk about the victims who were killed. What about the victims who were injured? What's their current condition, and can you identify any?
I like this guy.
I can't identify any of the victims at this point. My understanding is the last
They've done a good
update
job.
that I received that there were 3 people in critical care. And I don't have any more specifics reference to the remaining 10 in that scenario. And as you might imagine, these individuals passed away because of this crime. And these other folks have to live with the rest of their lives. So I'm not sure that they want to be identified in the sense. We've had victims' families with media members and others parked across the street. They feel nervous. They feel scared. So we're not in a position that we're going to identify them. And sir, right here. Yeah.
Based on what you've learned so far, why did the suspects target the bowling alley and the bar?
I would say that the mental health aspect of this, there's a piece of that where there's paranoia, there's some conspiracy theorist piece that I think of what I've read and what I've seen is that the individual felt like people were talking about him. It may even appear that there were some voices in play here. And we don't believe that any of that is accurate. And I think that led him specifically back to those 2 specific locations. And it also led us to where's he going next? He used to work here, he used to be there. And what's that going to ultimately look like? So I think that's a valid question. Right here.
Commissioner, if we go back to the recycling center,
Yeah.
what was the suspect's connection to that facility? Was he a former employee?
There was an employment relationship there at some point. I don't know if
He
he was
totally
currently
forgot to
employed
go
or
back
not.
to his note that said he was
And I
going
don't
to
think
say
I'm
the
in a
question
position to
first.
answer that. I would kind of lean towards the business owner, and he's been part of this very forthcoming that got us back to that location to check. So I don't want to speak on his behalf of exactly where Mr. Carr's or what his status was at the end.
How long was he deceased?
I don't know that yet. And I think that comes down to the autopsy in many ways. They say, he passed away of this, cause and manner of death, and then they'll be able to give a range of some sort of how long he's been passed away. But I don't know how exactly tight that's going to be. But sir, did you have a question? Yeah, that was the one. All right, perfect. It's a twofer. Yes, ma'am.
The discovery of the body, if there's apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound, the condition of the body when you found it, the actual discovery of finding him in that trailer.
Yeah, sure. So, from a discovery standpoint of the status of the body itself, when you're talking about a few days, there's not a great deal of decomposition in that time frame. So it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. I will tell you, there was a couple of firearms found at the scene. I won't be able to tell you exactly what that was. The one picture that I saw looked like he had the same sweatshirt on that he had the picture that we put out at the bowling alley. That's appeared to be the sweatshirt that he was wearing at that time. He was found closer to the sliding door component of the trailer, so he wasn't buried back further. When that happened, when he took his own life, I don't know the answer to that. And again, we'll probably have a range-ish from the medical examiner's office,
Jess.
but not something I know right now. Right here?
Yeah,
Yes.
Can you just help us understand anything that you know about his movements, how he was able to evade so many law enforcement partners for the amount of time that he was?
Yeah, super question, right? So again, a bit of an anomaly from a scenario, right? We have two locations. He escapes both, parks his car someplace else. And I want that picture to stay up there. But if you looked at that Google map from the Lisbon location, but I'm going to screw up the boat launch terminology again. What is that again, Ryan?
It's the Spanish River Bridge boat ramp, which is the entrance to the paper mill trail.
So that trail actually runs from that boat launch all the way along the Androscoggin River, and you can see it on that Google map. So that comes all the way down along the river, and then that overflow parking lot is there, again, next to a business that he's familiar with as well. So there is a natural connection. Is that planned? Is that not planned? Is that a location of convenience? I don't know the answer to that, but that's kind of how that went down. But right in the back, man.
So going back to these maps, so you mentioned previously that sort of triangle section had been searched twice before,
Yeah.
but he was found in that sort of overflow parking area.
Mm-hmm.
Had that area specifically been searched for before?
No, it had not. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. You just said, I think, that 2 firearms were found with his body.
Mm-hmm.
So can you just clarify, does that mean there were 3 firearms on his person? One found in the car and then 2 on his body?
Yes. 1 in the car, 2 on his body.
And can you give us any details? The one in the car, you said, was a long gun.
It was a long gun. It was a rifle of some sort. I don't know the make and manner.
The 2 in his body?
I don't have that information. They're still working that scene right now, so that's not something I'll clarify for now. Right here, ma'am. I'm going to kind of work my way. I'm going to try to get to everybody if everybody's cooperative, and we'll try to get as many as we can.
Any video, or you saw any video of the suspect playing cornhole at the bar?
And I just read my note that said repeat the question, which I haven't done yet. So could you ask that one more time?
Can you confirm that you've seen video or there's video of the suspect playing cornhole at the bar?
So is there video, or can we confirm that there's video of the suspect playing cornhole at the bar? No, I have not seen that. There's a lot of video yet to view from the locations, as well as those 197. I don't know how often this individual frequented the bar, if there's a timestamp on when that would have occurred. I don't know the answer to that at all.
What about frequenting the bowling alley?
I think that there's a connection to all of those locations. I think both of those spots. I will tell you from a community standpoint, a lot of people in this community were familiar with both spots, right? So this thing happens and everybody's like, I was there once before. My family visits that spot. So there was a lot of that was going on. And I do believe there's a connection, as if this gentleman had been in both of those spots. Want to give it another shot, sir?
Yeah, I got another question. We haven't talked a lot.
So you guys, just quickly,
what he was doing
the boat launches to the right, and
Mm-hmm.
so I just showed it in conjunction with that. But I think that right there, different
So we haven't
Capitol
focused
Avenue,
a lot of time on the time frame
where they're
leading up
talking about
to the
the
crimes themselves.
off this
And
trail
no, I
here
really can't flesh
is
that
where they're
out.
talking about
I
those
do think
trailers
that,
right there.
What happens from here is those neighborhood
That's like
canvases,
the
and we say, okay,
overflow.
so
I
this
believe.
happened. We know this call came in at 6:56. We know that call came in at 7:08. Can we follow that suspect vehicle, that white Subaru station wagon? Can we track that with video in 100
Morning,
different
Chummy.
locations? I've seen those ring cams, convenience store, someplace out front, and then can we time gap that so we know exactly what happened, and that we left this location in that car. We know somehow we ended up at the boat launch. Can we try to figure out what that looks like? So I don't have any information. Was he casing the place that day?
Now,
Or clearly he had some knowledge of these locations previously.
it was
however.
reported that he lost his job at the recycling
Of course,
plant
yeah, absolutely. That's part
on
of that.
News Nation.
Again, he's dead. We know where he's located at. We can start working with our victims. We can also start digging in on all of these other things. But, sir?
Yeah, so did you say that you don't know of any forcible mental health visits?
Jess, did you hear that about him losing
There's
his
none that
job?
I'm aware of. We've
That's
had
what News
people
Nation
check
was
that have told
reporting.
me that they haven't found those. So if they exist, I'm sure we'll continue to dig and try to find them, but I haven't found them.
So a quick follow-up to that then.
Yep.
We're learning there may have been from a local source, high up in law enforcement, that we have. If you found that the yellow flag law should have been enacted, how will you hold those responsible?
So that's a pretty good hypothetical from whoever your source is. We'll have to look at the actual snapshot in time. The yellow flag law in the state of Maine is very specific about an individual that's in protective custody from law enforcement to begin with. And do we have probable cause to believe that they are in possession, they could be in possession of dangerous weapons? So if we meet those criteria, then you can take an individual in for a yellow flag assessment, a weapons restriction order assessment. And at that time, your criteria change from likelihood of serious harm to likelihood of foreseeable harm. There's a little, it's close as far as
I
damage.
guess my broader question would be, will you work to try to prevent things like this from happening in the future? How might that be?
I would tell you that the weapons restriction order in Maine has been utilized 82 times to this point. It went into effect on July 1 of 2020. I know that because I've read every single one of those reports and am involved in that process on a regular basis. Just gave a presentation last Friday to a group of social workers to make sure that we're putting that information out there as much as humanly possible. It has been effective to this point. And it's certainly something that we're always looking at. Can we tweak it? Can we make things better? But it has been utilized, and to this point, it is being effective. But ma'am, you had a question?
You talk a lot about the mental health component and being part of his motivation. Is there any other aspect that you can tell us about or possible motive that led to him targeting the bowling alley and then the bar?
I think that what we know is we have a lot of work yet to do on phones and technology. Are we going to find a concrete motive that says this is what I'm going to do and this is why? At this point, we certainly know that there's a strong mental health cloud over this, what happened, the two tragic scenarios at both of those locations. We know that there's definitely a mental health nexus to that. Specifically, is there another reason? When you talking about paranoia, you're talking about individuals in crisis. There's a lot there. What was actually happening versus what they perceived to be happening. So all those things are definitely on our radar. But in the back, ma'am, and I'm going to come up to you, sir.
What's the status of your search before you found the body? Did you have other leads leading you to this parking area, or was it just the owner of the recycling center saying, hey, and when did he tell you guys to look in that parking lot again? And then can you also confirm that you believe he walked the trail to the parking lot from the boat ramp?
So the two questions there, did we have additional leads reference to the overflow lot where he was ultimately located? And can we confirm that he walked? Number two, we haven't found a vehicle or any other a bicycle or a motor. There's no other information to lead us believe that there was anything but walking down. I suppose something could happen to lead us in that direction. So there's whatever that is, 800 and something leads and tips. The primary reason that we were back in that location is because I will say this, from a community policing, from a relationship standpoint, the owner of a business calls his police chief and says, hey, I want somebody to make sure that they're clearing that. That's good cop 101, right? They have an automatic connection with somebody in your community. That's why the additional follow-ups occurred. Because we had, again, searched and documented. There's logs and all this stuff about when we were there, who was there, what did they do, which allowed us to do the follow-up work to say, well, did you check across the street? Well, what's across the street? There's a dozen businesses that surround this thing and nothing that says that's the recycling corporation. So the owner was diligent, and as was Chief McGee, and then passing that information on to the command post and then ultimately being checked. So, sir, right here in the middle. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the use of K9.
Again, it really sounds like across the
all right,
street,
you have been listening in
the
there to
overflow
officials
area,
over in Lewiston, Maine,
right off of the
providing
trail.
the latest updates in the wake of that mass shooting there at a bowling alley and bar. 18 people were killed, another 13 injured, and now we're learning the suspect is dead, believed to have died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound found in an area that was actually searched by police inside a box trailer, semi-truck trailer, found dead there. Officials providing that latest update. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll pick this up on the other side.
Oh, I meant to just mute that. Hold on a sec. Hit play. There, we'll just mute that on there. Yeah, so like I said, News Nation, Ashley Banfield reported when she was talking with that guy from the Lewiston or Libsyn area or whatever. He's the gentleman that she was talking to, and then she had brought up the fact that he had lost his job at the recycling center. Could possibly be true, but you would think then he would go shoot up people at the recycling center if that was the case, unless, of course, by chance, if that's true, maybe he knew that they went and played bowling, or who knows. But I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what News Nation was reporting. And again, they're talking about the trail, like the boat launch is down over here to the right-hand side. And then there's that walking trail that you can see that runs along the river. And then just up to the right-hand corner, or sorry, the left-hand corner is where that overloaded trailers is. And like you can see on this picture, the recycling has the trailers there, but this is the overflow. And so that's where they found him, in the overflow in one of the trailers there. It's funny because it's like when the way that they were talking at the start, it's kind of like the gentleman talking kept saying that I think the owner or whoever said, well, did you check, like, are you sure? Because the police are saying that, like, they checked this whole section a couple times, and then the owner or whatever, the recycling corporation says, well, are you sure? Because he knew this, like, knew the area well, like maybe he's in over on the overflow. And then that's when they found him. So, like, I'm impressed that he was very forthcoming, and letting us know. And I think that he's done a really excellent job of holding press conferences and, just kind of, he looks like he's the type of person that just kind of speaks from his heart, obviously within using, going to say certain things and not going to say other things, but they've done a very good job of keeping the public updated for sure. And it's nice when they can sit there and say, look, we checked that a couple times, but they went back because of the owner, whoever had said, go check like the overflow, which is across the road. And then sure enough, he was found. I think they said like it's like a sliding, it was like a sliding door or something of the trailer. So anyways, all I'm going to say is good on them for how transparent and the press conferences that they've been holding. Get back to that. Oh, are they back?
If you didn't see 24/7, 365 out on the street, I know that Chief McGee was working with fellow chiefs to bring him additional resources. I've seen that email string like, hey, we're trying to have 2-person cars from a safety perspective. We want to make sure that we're properly staffed across the board. Another incredibly positive aspect of this is that search that Chief McGee led was because one of his officers found an open door to that facility, right? So that's what's happening. People go to bed, whether they can sleep or not, and all night long, there are police officers crawling through their neighborhoods, looking at these businesses, looking at their backyards, trying to make sure that everybody's safe. So I will, for the rest of my life, be, looking at this event and saying, could we done this different? Could we do that different? I think we had resources in play. And our hearts go out. The reason we do this work is because the trauma that is caused to our communities, all communities, when these things happen. So it's a completely legitimate question, but not one that I think was resource intensive for that particular area. But sir, in the middle, why don't you follow up? Go ahead. I'll give you that one.
Those 2 searches, was it just Lisbon police?
No.
Or did you have other officers?
Yep. So Chief McGee led that one search, and then there was also a combined tactical team that did an additional search. But again, as the reason that we were late and we wanted to put that map up there is because if I told you, they didn't know about the overflow location, I wanted to be able to show you why that is. right? There's a business here. You cross the road. There's this overflow parking lot that I don't think, me personally, would have naturally connected that this business is connected to that. If it's all in the same lot, because these tactical team commanders, as an example, well, did you check trailers? And the answer is, yeah, we checked the trailers that were there. And then the owner, again, being diligent and knowing his property, said, well, did you check those trailers? Which trailers? Well, the ones across the road down here across Central Ave. And the answer was, no, we didn't go over there. That's not what we were there to do. So I think that they did their due diligence across.
Again, these trailers down here.
Thanks for your time.
Sure.
I guess two things I wanted to ask you on. In terms of that note, is there a timeline on when you think that may have been written? Was it that day before you proceeded to choose? And then secondly, on that trailer, do you think you may have been in the woods and then double back there? Legitimately missed, first time possibly because he didn't check, but maybe he wasn't there.
So I think two different questions there. One, reference to the timing of the note, and then how he got to that trailer, when he got to that trailer. All we can say for the note component of this is simply saying that we know when the initial shooting happened. I think as we try to backtrack through his day, which was an earlier question, can we identify where he was at a certain time in comparison to the shooting at 6:56, and then know in the middle. So he must have had it there at some point. Maybe there's a technology piece of this. The phone stopped moving at a certain spot. Maybe there's going to be additional information there. And when he went to the trailer, how he got to the trailer, I would like to think that we're going to get some additional information there, but I haven't seen it yet. And we're going to continue to work it. So, yes, Rick.
Officials in Maine providing an update on the massacre that happened there. We are headed out to a quick commercial break. We'll be back in just 2 minutes.
So yeah, and I'll just put that picture or show there again. So boat launch walks west up into the left-hand corner where those trailers are, which is below south of the recycling corporation, the overflow trailers. So it's like they were talking about these trailers up here, but then the owner said, like, well, if you check the overflow, which is across the road here. So yeah. Just wow. Okay. Yeah, I'll be curious to if he did get fired, not fired. Well, yeah, fired, or if he lost his job. I don't know why, but for some reason, it could be true. It just doesn't sound right, though, for some reason. I don't know. So, does it normally close on Thursday morning? Is that normal? I'm trying to remember, Jess. This started at what time that day? It was in the evening, correct? Mm-hmm. They'll come back in a second here.
All right, welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Giacomo Luca. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, Wednesday night.
Return over in Lewiston, Maine, with an update from police there following the massacre that happened, killing 18 people at a bar and bowling alley. The suspect is now believed to be dead. Officials saying in this press conference that suspect was believed to have been found inside a semi-truck trailer, an area that had already been searched by police. We're going to pull this full and listen in live, raw.
That's a large industrial park.
And unfiltered.
Just talking about a small area, I'm talking large industrial park. But I can say that there is numerous resources from state police, all the local agencies, all the sheriff's departments across the state of Maine, federal agencies. We had helicopters in the air over that vehicle moments after I arrived, and I was the second officer on scene. I can tell you that we flooded that area with resources. Someone brought up a question about canines. One thing with canines is we don't want to hinder scents. And I'm not going to get into all the details of the investigation, but I can assure you that there was a lot of teams that searched the area. On top of, I'll add one thing, on top of it being an industrial park, numerous different businesses. Obviously, there was one business that we were interested in, and our tactical teams did clear that building at Maine Recycling. And as he pointed out, there was a open door that was found that one of my officers found on the overnights again, and we cleared the building again with several agencies. But I'll just point out this: why this is all going on, we have to also understand everything we do is a methodical approach, and we got to be safe. We got to make sure our officers are safe. But we're fielding hundreds of calls at our comm center. There was also the tip line that I heard today how many calls came in there. As you can imagine, it was an astronomical amount of resources being used across our community. Not everybody's in marked police cars. Not everybody's in full uniform. But there was a lot of resources from across New England that was here, including helicopters, moments after I arrived on scene when that car was located. So we used every resource that was available. And we were, I think it was this gentleman down here asked me, how long are you going to search for? Or do you expect to find him? Every officer there wasn't going home until we found the individual.
Just to follow up, the commissioner said the business is twice cleared. Is it twice cleared on Thursday, once Friday, twice Friday? When is the business cleared?
So Maine Recycling was cleared Thursday. It was cleared on Thursday. And then my officers, trying to think, I had like 3 hours sleep over the course of a few days. But it was in the middle of the night. I'd say it was 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. My officer found it, and we activated everybody to go to that area and got other resources. I was in constant contact with the state police tactical team throughout this. I was in constant contact with Lieutenant Keaton from the state police, did an outstanding job. Greg Roy from Maine State Police, outstanding job communicating information back and forth. My hat's off to the state police, because direct communication to me on my cell phone was great, and it was a coordinated effort. Everybody standing behind me from the federal level, Homeland Security, FBI, ATF. There was boots on the ground throughout the whole thing, assisting our agency. We all had a common goal to find him. It took 2 days, but we found him, and everybody could sleep good last night. So,
just to clarify, searched on Thursday, then after midnight Friday.
Yeah, I can't remember. It would have been. Yeah, I can narrow down the timeline. I don't want to give you the wrong timeline, but it was hours after. It was in the middle of the night when they found it. So, yeah, that would be about right.
The business owner called you?
The business owner actually called our agency. We ended up speaking to him. I followed up with him. I have spoken to him. Yes, that is correct. I have spoken to him. He did reach out to us with that information. Correct.
What time was that?
Search trailer.
Not trailer. I mean, he's got an overflow lot of 55 to 60 trailers full of crushed up plastic and metal. This isn't a lot that's just all empty trailers. So I'm not going to get into more of the details on that. I mean, realistically, right now, we should all be really thinking about the victims. We also should be, the suspect's family as well. We're very forthcoming to law enforcement. But, we have all our national news and media partners here. And this tragic event that happened, that hats off to Chief St. Pierre and his agency. But right now, we want Maine to be remembered as the community that came together after this tragic event. I was on my way in this morning to this press conference, and I'm driving through Lisbon, and I see people walking the streets, people sitting on their porches, people waving thumbs up. It's what community is all about. So I'd say I'm not going to say too much more at this point. I'm going to put it back over to him. But moving forward, we just be thinking about the victims. Thanks.
Can you tell us if there are any vigils planned over the next couple of days? Also, will students be going back to school starting on Monday? Will there be additional resources there? And lastly, is there going to be a heightened security presence in the town for the next one?
And to add to her, is there any resources?
One at a time. All right. So first, answer your question about vigils. I do know of one that at 6 o'clock tonight at the Rumbo site in Lisbon Falls, there's going to be a candlelight vigil being held there in Lisbon to remember the victims that tragically killed in Lewiston. As far as school, I'm still in communication with the superintendent of schools. I don't have an answer for you on that yet. And what was your other question?
The other question was, is there going to be a heightened security presence?
Yes. Yeah, we have multiple extra officers on. Yes.
Your department, well, all of you all's department, and that's put in a lot of work. How are you all doing? And what resources are going to be made available, if any, for the people who are working on this case for days on it?
I can tell you that personally, I can speak only for myself, but NAMI in Maine, as well as every crisis counselor has reached out to me for my department. We are scheduling debriefs for my department. Elizabeth Police Department was heavily involved as soon as it happened to go up and assist Lewiston right at the scenes. So I want to get those officers some assistance. But as you can imagine, nobody on my department wanted to go home until we found that individual. And I pretty much had to force them to go home and take a nap. So,
Chief, could you describe the moment that your officers opened that door, that trailer? Like, how did they make the positive identification?
yeah, I won't be able to comment on that because we weren't involved down the trailer. So I'm going to put it back over to the. Thank you.
I appreciate that. So the Maine State Police Tactical Team are the ones that located this individual. And again, because of the appearance, the facial hair, the clothing, the circumstances, they were communicating back to Major Crimes, who was communicating with the Attorney General's office, the medical examiner's office. What are we all comfortable with in order to ID this individual positively and say, so we could come and say that this individual has been found and he's deceased and this is how he passed away. So that part of that identification process is pretty standard. And that's the process that we followed here. As soon as we knew that, the very first call that we made was to Chief St. Pierre to notify him that, again, that next level can occur. I'm going to take one more question, and it's going to be from you, Ann.
Yeah, understanding that there has been no forcible commitment to any kind of mental institution, can you tell us anything that you know about voluntary self-commitment that we may have had?
So the question is stating that there's no forcible commitments. Do we know of anything that's on the voluntary side? I know that we're seeking records and we're trying to determine if, in fact, that happened. What did it look like? There are reports out there that it did involve the military, his military unit. We don't have ready access to that documentation. So we're following up on that like we would with everything else. But I really, really do appreciate everybody's time, your patience, your professionalism. Thank you for taking care of our community. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Freaking hair birds crowing. Some crowing birds or whatever. Okay, you guys. I'm going to end this live in just a minute here. Thank you guys for joining, of course, in this conference this morning. Again, prayers to all the victims of this tragedy. I'm just so grateful that they found him very fast, to put the community back at ease. I guess we'll find out some more information too as it goes along. Yeah, thank you, CJK. Thanks, Jess, for your knowledge there as well. And CJK, about the legally purchased his 2 guns before the mental episode. He had training. I just read. Yeah. I'm sure there's going to be some more stuff coming out in the next few days about exactly, stuff like that. But anyways, you guys, I'm going to end this live. I'm going to see if my husband wants to go back to bed. I doubt it. But he's one of those people that can't really go back to sleep once he's woken up, or else it gives him a headache. But anyways, you guys have a great day. Be blessed. And thank you guys so much. And we'll see you on the next live. Okay, guys? Take care. This is Sunny Justice and Aspen Connor from It's a Crime and Shame, wishing you all a good night.